We are here in the matter of SM.
And this matter comes before the court today for the purpose of a review hearing. At this time, I'd invite counsel to place your appearances on the record.
Lindsay Dubois, LGAL for Serenity Malone.
Carolyn Gaston, I represent Cervante.
Ms. Foster, can you please give us an update regarding the minor child?
Yes. SM returned home to her father, Mr. Malone, on 9/10/2025 of this reporting period. And then on 9/23/2025, she had her 15-month well child appointment. No concerns were reported. And she will have her 18-month appointment in December. And then she had a dental exam on 7/14/2025, and there were no concerns reported. And then she had a dentist specialist appointment on 10/16/2025, where the dentist noted some tongue ties in her mouth. And so Mr. Malone made an appointment for her with the ENT, and that appointment was on 10/31/2025. And the ENT doctor found no tongue ties. She also had a weight check at that appointment where she weighed 20 pounds and 14 ounces. On 9/24, she had her, or 9/23, sorry, she had her swallow study, updated swallow study done, where it was still found that there was still aspiration when she was eating and drinking without showing signs of aspiration, like watery eyes or coughing. She did stop her vital stimulation appointments during this reporting period, with 10/16/2025 being her last appointment. The insurance was up covering the appointments, so they could have been, more appointments could have been requested, but Mr. Malone did want to switch providers with that service anyways. And so that was the last appointment, but then he did call Corewell Health and get those appointments, or that service switched over to Corewell, and those appointments are scheduled. There's one for 3/11/2026, 3/18/2026, and then plus 14 more that I couldn't see the date for. So those are scheduled. And then since she has been home, she's been to the emergency room a couple times. One time, Serenity pulled out her feeding tube, or her like port, out of her stomach. And so Mr. Malone took her in for that. And then another time, Mr. Malone noticed SM not putting weight on one of her feet. And so he took her in for that for x-rays. And then another time was just like a sickness she had, to get her checked out for that. Yeah, she continues following up with her specialist, and Mr. Malone continues taking her to those appointments and scheduling follow-ups with them.
Okay, so it sounds like those times she had to go to the emergency room, Mr. Malone was able to recognize concerns and he handled those appropriately, correct?
Yes, he did.
Okay, and he hasn't missed any of her required medical appointments either, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I know initially there was a little bit of concern with her losing weight. That's been monitored continuously, is that correct?
Yes, she's now being followed due to stopping services with Mary Freebed. She's now being followed by the dietitian with neurodevelopment with Corewell. And I was able to talk to them this morning, the dietitian, and she reported no concerns with Serenity's weight. She noted some weight loss from the end of September to the second week of October, but then she's been gaining since, she said, and she's in the 29th percentile for weight and 39th percentile for weight for length.
Okay, and the dietitian will continue to monitor her weight, is that correct?
Yes, that is.
Okay, but at this time, there's no concerns with that, is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay, and are there any services that Serenity is not involved in at the current time that she needs to be involved in?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so fair to say overall she's doing well?
Yes.
Okay, and then can you give us an update regarding Mr. Malone?
Yes, Mr. Malone worked with KRP. The case KRP opened right when the return home happened on 9/10/2025, and then they successfully closed on 11/11/2025. KRP had nothing but great things to say about Mr. Malone and his ability to parent Serenity and care for her and her medical needs. So that was really great to hear. He is working currently. He did switch jobs this reporting period. He's currently truck driving, making $22 an hour, and he did give me a pay stub for that employment to verify that. he continues living in the same one-bedroom apartment with him and Serenity. And then during this reporting period, we had some issues with the counseling service that he was in. Because the agency was supposed to be paying for it, and then they sent an invoice for, I think it was like 6 appointments he had, and it took a while to request the funds for that and get that check sent out to them. And so they stopped seeing Mr. Malone until the service was paid, which I didn't realize they would do that. And so I would say it's on the agency, not Mr. Malone, that service had to stop. Now that they have been paid for the service, they are requiring that the services be paid for in advance, which I know that if the case does close or anything happens, the agency wouldn't be able to continue paying for that. And so, because I was looking into talking with our finance department to see if that is something they could do, because usually we pay after the service happens. And then I would also add one more thing. This reporting period, it came to our attention that Mr. Malone does have an active warrant in the state of Indiana for failure to appear. I did talk to Mr. Malone about it, and he reported that it was for a possession of marijuana from 2023. He reported that it was from when him and Miss Burkholder were going to get Shyla from the family that she was with out of state, and they got pulled over in Indiana. He reported that Miss Burkholder had marijuana on her, but since she was only 20 years old, he took the blame for it, not realizing that it was illegal in the state of marijuana, or in the state of Indiana, sorry. And so he did provide explanation for it, and he did state to me his plan to take care of that warrant. He didn't want it to affect him getting Serenity back in his care. I did develop a safety plan with him yesterday in regards to the warrant, and he did agree to it.
Okay, and can you explain the details of the safety plan?
Yes, it basically just detailed Mr. Malone identifying a appropriate substitute caregiver for SM, and if he were to be picked up or go to jail for the warrant, then he would use that substitute caregiver for SM, and then notify the agency if he does go to jail or something like that. And then, but if the case were to close, then it wouldn't be necessary to notify us.
And who is the substitute caregiver?
We discussed it being Mr. Williams.
And is he trained as far as Serenity's medical needs?
He has been helping Mr. Malone taking care of her since she has been returned home.
Okay, and have you tried to assist Mr. Malone or given him any direction as far as addressing the warrant or getting it cleared?
We have talked about it, but he hasn't asked for assistance.
Okay. And what is the reason, I guess, can you explain that to me again, why to wait until after this case closes to do that?
He just didn't want it to affect him getting SM back in his care, was his reasoning.
Okay.
Because it sounds like it became reactive around the time she was brought in.
Okay. And what are your recommendations at this time?
It's respectfully recommended that Serenity remain placed in the home of her father, that Mr. Malone engage with and benefit from his parent agency treatment plan, that the agency have discretion to request closure through a JC 36 over the next reporting period, or if the court has no concerns with the warrant, that the case can be closed and that this case be reviewed as required.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Ms. Gaston.
Thank you. Ms. Foster, with respect to the KRP closing plan, it indicates that Mr. Malone has a great bond with Serenity and watches her closely, correct?
Yes.
That he's on top of her medical needs?
Yes.
That he's got a great connection with his mentor, Mr. Williams, who I think has been with us throughout this case, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Williams is helpful and able to care for Serenity also. Is that also true?
Yes.
And it indicated, I think, in your report that Mr. Malone uses daycare for Serenity. Do you know where that is?
He was having like an in-home daycare that he was using, but he felt like they weren't tending to her medical needs appropriately, and so he switched to one with Apple Tree. I'm not sure the exact Apple Tree it is, but.
Okay. And in terms of budget, do you know how he's affording that?
He is getting daycare assistance through DHS.
All right. And is that appropriate? Have you checked it out? Do you know if Apple Tree is an appropriate placement for Serenity?
I know other families that have been with the agency have used Apple Tree for daycare, and I've heard decent things about it. I haven't personally went and seen the one that Serenity is at, though.
Okay. And based on Mr. Malone's taking her to the ER a couple of times, well, 3 times you indicated, that was appropriate, correct?
Yes.
And in terms of any of her medical needs, it sounds like the stimulation is back on track. There's no tongue tie. She's doing very well in his care at this time. True?
Yes.
All right. Did you by chance investigate whether the possession of marijuana charge in Indiana is a misdemeanor?
I'm not sure exactly what it was.
Okay. And the safety plan for if he goes to address that or when he goes to address that, do you know who Mr. Malone will be using for care for Serenity?
We talked about it being Mr. Williams.
And has Mr. Williams had Serenity in his care in the past?
Yes.
And he does well with her?
Yes.
And Mr. Williams is fully familiar with the Medicare and Medicaid and whatever needs Serenity has so that he would be able to take the appropriate action if something were to happen?
Yes.
He's also been present during medical appointments with Mr. Malone, not always, but most of the time. Is that true?
Yes.
And so he knows her service providers and they know him. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm confused about the therapy piece. What therapy piece is it that Mr. Malone was unable to complete due to insurance?
I wouldn't say that it was unable to be completed, but he was just unable to continue with the service due to the agency not getting that paid for in time. And I think it's like a private therapist and it's like the therapist's own practice. And so he was basically like needing paid to continue, which makes sense. And so that was on the agency. I know Mr. Malone mentioned that he got his own insurance with Priority Health and he was just waiting for that insurance card to come in the mail to be able to provide that to the counseling place. And so I'll have to follow up with Mr. Malone to see if that was still his plan or if he's done that yet.
All right. And is that insurance through his employer or is that his own like marketplace insurance?
That I don't know.
Okay. Well, is Serenity going to be on his insurance or will she remain on her own?
I believe I'm not sure.
All right. The report regarding counseling indicates that he's shown, well, parenting skills. He's shown great improvement in his parenting skills. Is that right?
Yes.
And does he continue in a father parenting group?
I don't believe so at this time. I know previously he mentioned reaching out to the Alphas group.
Okay. And he had found that group early on his own, correct? Is that your recollection?
Yes.
And in fact, the Alpha Men's group has been very helpful in many ways in terms of offering therapy, anger management services, the father parenting group, all those sorts of things, correct?
Correct.
Do you have any reason to believe that Mr. Malone would discontinue his interactions with the Alpha Men's group if this case closes?
No, I don't.
What benefits are there to keeping the case open for a J36 as opposed to closing today?
I would say the only thing would be the warrant to make sure it gets taken care of. But if the court has no concerns with that warrant, then I'm not opposed to closing the case today.
All right. And I think you spoke about speaking to your supervisors regarding payment for additional therapy, and I missed what the results of that was.
If the case were to close, we wouldn't be able to continue paying for that service for Mr. Malone. So I will follow up with him to see if he got his insurance card and was planning on using that for his counseling.
And if the case remains open, did you get an answer as to whether or not you could make advance payments?
Not at this time. I need to talk to the finance department about that.
Okay. Is there a risk of harm to Serenity if she's returned to Mr. Malone's care and this case closes at this point in time?
I would say no.
Mr. Malone has always followed the safety plans that you've put in place in the past, correct?
Yes.
And I think we have a foster care safety plan, which was provided to us. You indicated you made another one yesterday. Is that essentially the same plan?
Yes, I did. I developed the one yesterday with Mr. Malone, but it was the same one I sent you and Miss Dubois. The only thing that we added to it was that if the case closes, that it wouldn't be necessary for Mr. Malone to notify the agency.
So he has identified substitute caregivers for her?
He has.
He has ensured that the substitute caregivers have the agency information?
Yes.
And he would use one of his identified substitute caregivers in addressing his warrant. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
But you don't know the severity of what Mr. Malone may face in addressing the warrant in Indiana, correct?
Correct.
Do you know, has he indicated when he might resolve that, or just after the case?
He told me just after the case closes.
Right. And when you found out about that warrant, were you able to determine whether there's a pickup order in place that would send them to Michigan to arrest Mr. Malone, or whether that's a Indiana only warrant?
That I'm not sure.
Okay, and what do you know about the warrant?
Just that it was for a failure to appear, and then I know what Mr. Malone told me about what it was for. I wasn't really able to see more information. And then it was found through the adoption side through a fingerprint. And so Ms. Hansen, the adoption specialist, wasn't able to even share that report with me.
Okay.
Since it was a federal.
What's been going on with visits with Shiloh and Serenity?
They've been having monthly sibling visits. This month we did 2 of them.
Has Mr. Malone had any contact with Shiloh?
Yes, he's been present for those visits.
Is that something that you expect will continue,
Yes.
whether or not this case is active?
Yes.
So when you say monthly visits, he's seen her once a month?
I think the plan is to do them 2 times a month going forward. In November, we've done 2 of them.
And where do those take place?
At the agency visit house.
Does Shiloh remain in care at this time?
Yes.
So she has an active case with your agency?
Yes.
So there would be some oversight of Mr. Malone, even if this case closes, as he would be coming twice a month with Serenity for visits with Shiloh. Is that right?
Yes.
So you have no concerns, actually, with closing this case today?
I don't. No.
All right. Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you. I'd have a couple of questions, and you answered one of them, and that was how you learned about the warrant. Oh, the second question I had, the daycare assistance that Serenity is benefiting from now, is that dependent on this case, or is that separate?
I believe this case.
Okay, so in other words, if we close, the daycare assistance may at least change or go away.
I'm not sure. I will follow up with Mr. Malone on that.
Okay, seems like an important consideration. I know daycare is expensive.
Right.
Backtracking on the warrant, did you even know which county in Indiana it was from?
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, all right. I think those are all of my questions. Any follow-ups from counsel, Ms. Dubus
No, Your Honor.
and Ms. Gaston?
Just briefly, Ms. Foster, would your notes reflect whether or not that daycare assistance is dependent on your agency? I mean, is there a way you could let us know now?
I don't have it written in my notes. I don't think that was something I discussed with Mr. Malone. I'm guessing it might be based off of his income.
Okay, so it's possible that that daycare assistance will not go away. Is that correct?
Yes,
Is that a concern that Mr. Malone raised to you at all?
it isn't, no.
Thank you. No further questions.
Very good. Thank you. You may step down from the, unless you have any follow-ups, Ms. Dubus.
I do not, thank you.
Very good. Then you may step down. Thank you, Ms. Foster. Any additional witnesses or evidence to present at this time?
No.
Any witnesses or evidence, Ms. Gaston?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
I have a question for Mr. Malone if he knows about where that, what county that's out of in Indiana. You don't need to be under oath, Mr. Malone. This is just for my information primarily.
Yeah, no, I can tell you it's Miami County.
Miami County. Where in the heck is Miami County?
I don't know. It was nighttime. It was literally 30 minutes away from Michigan.
Michigan. Okay.
So it's in Indiana. It's Miami County in Indiana, but it's like literally like 30 minutes away from Michigan.
I know there's the Miami of Ohio. I didn't even know there was a Miami County. Well, and you know, I went to law school down there in South Bend, which is in St. Joe County, right across the border. However, there are various other counties, and yeah, the reason I ask is, you know, I'd love to say, oh, you know, because you know what I do with that. If that charge was in front of me, I'd give you fines and costs and no jail time, and then we'd be done with it, and it'd be over. But that's Michigan law. I have no idea what an Indiana judge might do with that case. And my concern here is, you know, unfortunately, us lawyers are trained to, you know, think through the worst case scenario in every case. So, you know, I think you're going down there to do what I think would happen. That is, he's going to give you fines and costs and send you home. And no, it turns out that's a felony in Indiana, and they decided to lock you up. You know, and my worst case scenario says, oh, that would be for a year. Well, then what happens is the kid comes straight back into care because you know, I mean, I guess you could sign over a guardianship and do all that stuff to Mr. Williams, but that seems like a lot to do. I would be way more confident if that warrant got resolved down in Indiana. And usually, if it were up here, I know exactly what happens. You call down there to the sheriff's department, they say, hey, we'd love to resolve that for you. You need to come in. You might have had an attorney, you know, if you had court appearances, there may be an attorney who is already appointed, or they may have a, you know, defender's office down there in Indiana who can represent you on that. You may be able to reach out to the county public defender's office and say, hey, look here's what I'm dealing with. You know, what do you recommend? And they would appoint an attorney, and you could get it done, you know, just about as simply as you could get it done up here, which would be simply, you know, you would have to take a day off work and, you know, drive down there and do it. You know, make that one appearance in court, have the thing dismissed, get assigned some fines and costs, and told, hey, pay those either, you know, fairly quickly or over a time payment plan, and you're done. But like I say, not being an Indiana judge, I have no idea what that is. And my other worst case scenario is, well, how do warrants work in Michigan? Well, it depends on the severity. Of the underlying charge. I totally believe a failure to appear warrant might be limited to Indiana, but I don't know that for sure. And it could be, you know, sometimes they have a mile radius, like a 50-mile radius attached. So, you know, to make matters even worse, if you got arrested in one of the border counties down there or stopped, you know, even when you're doing your truck driving job, you got stopped in Berrien or St. Joe County, Michigan, just on the Indiana border, and they'd say, "Oh, it's a 50-mile warrant pickup, and you're within 50. We'll hold you in Michigan," which could take days longer until Indiana transfers you. You transfer down to Indiana, taking more days longer, and finally you get the warrant cleared that you could have probably driven down there and cleared in the first place. So, I think through those situations, and I think I would sit way more comfortable from where I am if that warrant got cleared. I totally understand your desire. Here's what I'll tell you: it's not going to happen. You're not going to go down to Indiana, and even if you did, like I say, worst case scenario, they said, "Oh, possession of marijuana, that's a grade A felony in Indiana," because we're not Michigan, and we're going to slap you in jail for 6 months. Even if that happened, I'm not going to remove your kid based on the fact that you're sitting in jail. In fact, the law says I can't remove a child based solely on your confinement and inability to parent for that time. So my worst case scenario works out a lot better if you go and clear the warrant, because it's almost like the unknown creates more of a worry than I really think it's going to be if you go down there. Because I don't know the Indiana law and I don't know what's likely to happen down in Indiana. And my training tells me to think through the worst case scenario. So I'd be way more comfortable if you just got down there and, and I would lead off if I were you with a call. And my first call would be, to the public defender's office it could be Marion County, Indiana. I think that's the next one after after you get across, when you're getting down there by Indianapolis. I think you get into Marion County at some point. I have no idea how far north that goes or any of that. Thank God it's been 30 years. I did practice as a law student briefly in Indiana. I remember appearing at least in court in Plymouth one time, but that's the last time I've done anything with Indiana law. So, but I think the bottom line is you probably need to call down there first. I guess I'd call to the court, the sheriff, maybe the defender's office, get all those people to weigh in on what's the fastest, easiest way I can do to clear this thing up, explain that it's holding up a child custody proceeding up here and clear that, get the warrant resolved. Because like I say, my worst case scenario is probably 100 times worse than what's really going to happen. But I rested a lot easier in this case if that thing got resolved. I know seeming to you, and I totally understand the let me take care of one thing at a time, Judge. I got this legal case in front of you. Let's get this done, and then I'll deal with my legal things in Indiana. But I see them as, because of that worst case scenario, they are somewhat related. I would rest a lot easier if you simply, reached out to Indiana and cleared that thing up. I'd love to be able to say, yeah, you could do it on a phone call and pay your fines, but I don't know that's going to be the case. I know if that warrant was here, you'd probably have to make a trip up here at least to make your, and they may need to book you and have you make your court appearance. But sometimes, if you talk to the lawyers in the court and all that stuff, they tell you, hey, if you show up at 9 a.m., we book you, we get you in front of the judge at 10 and you're done by noon. That's a heck of a lot easier than the scenario I pointed out where you get stopped for failure to signal a lane change in Michigan, and they say, oh, you got an Indiana warrant, and they go through that whole extradition process. I do those. And I can tell you, it never takes less than a week or 2 weeks to get that thing all sorted out when there's a multi-state arrest, whatever it's for, and we're extraditing someone to a different state. So you just need to take care of that. Indiana warrant is the bottom line. I know it seems like, given the charge and the fact that marijuana is legal here in Michigan, and like I say, I know exactly what I would do with it. It's a different judge and it's a different state. I'm not comfortable in predicting what that Indiana judge is going to do with the case. So, but I can give you, from my perspective, even if it's a worst case scenario, I'm assuming a possession case is a misdemeanor in Indiana, you spend a year in jail, you're still not going to lose your kid because of that. You'd make an alternative arrangement. I am 99.9% certain you're not going to spend a year in jail on a marijuana possession charge, but I do need, you simply need to clear it. And the one assurance I can give you is I won't terminate your rights. If they send you to prison for 10 years and, because we're also taking your word on it's a possession, if it was a distribution of 100 pounds of marijuana and they decided you needed to go to prison for years, then I'd have to revisit that statement. But on what you've represented to me as a simple possession charge as an individual, I'm not going to remove your kid because even if they, worst case scenario, can find you for a period of time down in Indiana, just not going to happen. So, all right. But that does lead into my thought process, regarding what I'm going to do here. So, but I've gotten a little bit ahead of myself. I didn't give the attorneys time for closing statements, Ms. Dubois.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do think the recommendations are appropriate. I would just ask that the court not close today. I don't necessarily have an issue with leaving it open to close with a JC 36 upon clearing up that warrant, as the court stated. If it is just a misdemeanor marijuana possession, you may be even able to take care of it by a quick Zoom hearing and get it taken care of. But I would feel more comfortable as well with that being taken care of first. And then also, I am waiting to hear back from Mr. Malone for a date and time to schedule a visit with him in Serenity. So I would like that to be done first. But overall, he's done extremely well since she's been returned to his care full time. I'm glad to see that she's maintaining her weight. There was a couple issues, it sounds like, that came up through this report period with the medical concerns. He handled those all appropriately, took her to the ER and addressed those. So he's done a great job. But as the court stated, I too as well would like to see the warrant cleared up, get that visited with him, and if that can all be done prior to the next review, I wouldn't have an issue with a JC 36. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dubois. Ms. Gaston.
Thank you, Your Honor. On behalf of Mr. Malone, I know that he's anxious to have this case closed. He has done everything that this court has asked of him and that the agency has asked of him. And essentially, at one point in time, the court sort of indicated that Mr. Malone needed to prove that he would be able to take care of Serenity, and he's done so. There's absolutely no risk of harm of her being in his care at this point in time. That was the testimony. I know that I don't practice in Indiana, but I did a quick Google search. It does appear to be a misdemeanor with up to 180 days in jail and a fine of up to $1,000, which, as this court has stated, I do that kind of work in Grand Rapids, and or I used to when it was a crime here, and it was a quick in and out. So I would prefer case closure today. I know Mr. Malone would prefer case closure today. On the other hand, if the court intends to keep the case open, I would ask for a 45-day review, just so that we're not hanging out here on another 90 days while we wait to see what happens with the warrant. And then a J36 if it happens before that 45 days, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. All right. No, thank you, Ms. Gasson. I appreciate that. All right. Well, I have heard the testimony and reviewed the evidence, and I do don't want to get lost in this whole deal. Mr. Malone, you've done an outstanding job of getting that little girl to appointments. When I hear about the number of appointments and the specialized care that you have made sure she's getting, you are doing a terrific job of doing it. Is that little Serenity that I see right in the photo? Why don't you unmute and say something so I can see the, well, here, or maybe I can blow you up if I put you as my main screen here. No, I can't do that. That's too hard, it looks like. There you go. Why don't you say a couple words, Mr. Malone? I think I'll then get you
Well, I just wanted to state, like, Judge, I have done everything you asked, because I remember when Carolyn first brought it up to me, and I told Morgan that when I literally had an attorney mail me the information about the case, the court clerk or whatever down there in Miami County literally just said, take care of that case because the judge want to see you in person. And that was at a time that I was still getting visits with her. So it was like, well, I have to have visits, and I got all these doctor's appointments, so I can't do that. So they was like, well, get that case taken care of. Then you'll have the time to be able to come down here. And the worst that they said would be me having to go sit in jail, bond out, just to get a judge hearing if I'm not coming when the judge is already there.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was saying is my experience with taking care of that is if you get, an attorney who can at least tell you the ropes. They don't even have to represent you, but like you say, sometimes if you show up at 9 o'clock, you can have the thing done by noon. I can tell you what you don't want to do is you don't want to show up at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon when there aren't any judges on duty and you have to wait in jail until Monday morning or something like that. Sometimes here in Kent County, we have our district court judges do some Saturday morning arraignments and our magistrates and stuff. Like I said, no idea how they do that in Indiana, but I do know if it were here that the kind of, if you grease the skids ahead of time by saying, okay, what am I going to do? How do I bring in out long enough money or a credit card or whatever to post bond? Right. Sometimes it's just a matter of you check in and you check out. And sometimes they can do some of those hearings by Zoom, and I'm assuming again here, that this is a low level misdemeanor charge, like Miss Gaston has said, and like we say, I know for possession charges, we routinely just dismiss them with fines and costs, or you do the day you showed up as 1 day in jail or something like that. You get credit for the day you showed up and got booked into the jail, and then you're done. But I don't want to speak for Indiana purely because I'm not down there. So I get the concern there. I guess my concern is just because I don't know what I don't know. I have to take this overly cautious kind of worst case scenario type approach, and I do firmly believe you can get the thing taken care of. I would just like it taken care of, and frankly, it's also going to clear the path on your the adoption case and the other proceeding as well. You just simply need to get that thing done sooner than later. I get the, it's an unknown for you to make the trip down there. No unknown whether that's going to be a 1 day trip or a 7 day trip. But uh, try and talk to people ahead of time. They can probably give you a pretty good idea of what that's going to entail, and kind of tell them, hey, I'm a Michigan resident. I do want to do the right thing here and get this taken care of, but I I want to miss as little time from my daughter and work as possible. How can you? What would your advice be to do that? And they'll, the people in courts frankly have so many cases, when someone's trying to do the right thing, usually they're pretty willing to work with you. So I'd like to see that happen. And I get it. You're kind of getting different advice from the two different sources, right? Saying, take care of the case on one hand, and I'm saying take care of the Indiana case from up here. But, this one, I think, uh, I'm much more concerned about something unanticipated happening to you, i.e., you get picked up on that warrant unexpectedly and it turns into a bigger deal than it really is, just because of the two states involved. I would just rest a lot better if you cleared that thing. So what I'm going to do, and I know it's not what you want, I otherwise would close this case today. That's the one thing hanging out there is that warrant. I'll keep it open until the warrant, until the case is dismissed in Indiana. That's what I anticipate. Um, there's some sort of notice that it's dismissed and that, you did get or dismissed, or, you're resolved. The warrant is withdrawn. That'll happen when you show up down there. Um, and resolve it, and then I'll accept the JC 36 and dismiss the case. So that's the one thing remaining, and it is kind of a surprise it came up, during that FBI background check, and a lot of times those things turn up right out of state charges or whatever that we wouldn't have any knowledge about here in Michigan. So let's just get that one knocked off, and then I'll gladly sign the JCC 36 and dismiss the case. In the meantime, I'll keep Serenity placed with you and keep the case open so you benefit from your parent agency treatment plan. It sounds like we might be able to get some additional benefits during that time. I'd love to see some of those counseling services paid in advance if that can be done through the agency, since the agency kind of broke the services by not paying the bill in time. Maybe if we can get a couple sessions paid in advance, that'll kind of carry us through case termination. And then secondarily, I think it's worth looking at, just so Mr. Malone doesn't get hit with $1,000 daycare bill when he's transitioning out of the care. I suspect that the care may be separate from this case. I think that if you work with DHS, there are programs that provide early childhood care, and I suspect that's what Mr. Malone's benefiting from right now, so it's not case related, but I'd love to confirm that so Mr. Malone doesn't get a congratulatory JC 36 one day and the next day $1,000 bill from Apple Tree for the upcoming month worth of care. So, because it is expensive. So, I'm going to keep the case open, but like I say, the only thing I'm keeping it open for on a Serenity's welfare point is let's get that warrant cleared so that it resolves that one issue that's hanging in my mind. So, but again, I appreciate Mr. Malone, all the work you've done. I have had this case open for a long time and, seen a huge amount of effort that you've put in, and also to Mr. Williams as a mentor and caregiver there. When I see that beautiful little girl, I think I would do that work too. She's worth it. Keep up the good work. Let's get this last box checked, and I'll be glad to close the case. But I'll give you my congratulations too at this point, Mr. Malone. I can tell you, I'm out of the family division now. I've been transferred back to doing full-time civil criminal cases, but when I presided over cases, I was said about, by the time a case gets to court, only about 1 in 10 result in reunification with the parents. So insofar that you've made the honor roll, of parents reunifying with their kids, you can take a lot of pride in that, and you should. You've done a lot of hard work to make that happen. So like I say, looking for the JC 36. I will move that reviewing hearing up. I'm not sure if I can do it within 45 days with my schedule. Lisa, what does my schedule look like within 45 to 60 days?
Well, I could do January 22 at 2:30 on Zoom.
All right, let's set that next hearing then, January 22, 2:30. That's more like 60 days. I'm very confident we can knock off the Indiana issue by then, and on we go.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you all. And, like I say, this represents, in my view, thanks to Mr. Malone's hard work, a very positive outcome in this case. And I see how happy and safe that little girl, looks when she's sitting on his lap, and that makes it all worthwhile. And that's going to be my inspiration I carry into this holiday Thanksgiving weekend. So, and I'm thankful for all the hard work of the agency and the attorneys in getting us to this point as well. For me, that's inspiration that the system, actually, for all its problems, can work like it's supposed to on occasion. So I'm grateful for that. And with that, we're concluded. Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.